December 7th.
Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard. For the second time, beginning after Pesach 2014, this class meets in Long Meadow, Massachusetts, the center of the universe, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe Margaret Vogel, of blessed memory. Apples from the Orchard contains selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe. Okay, today we are on page 257 in Shmot.
Oh, what am I going to do with him?
Open now.
Open
Does it say
now.
Argentina or Armenia?
No,
Okay,
it's horizontal.
what? What does it say under?
Aventura.
Avigail brought it up, so you know.
Just Aventura.
Aventura. Okay. And okay, so we started this chapter about the Torah's account, beginning of Shmos. These are the children of Israel who came to Egypt, and how everything is an allusion to the fetus and the Yetzer Hara, basically. There are within this unborn baby are the Yetzer Tov, Yetzer Hara, the inclination or the urge for good, and the urge for bad, known as Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, the urge for bad. And everything here we said is remez, is an allusion of the Torah through this account of the exile, alludes to the birth of a child, with this dichotomy, with these two forces, an urge for doing good and an urge for doing bad. And there are some things here that are not clear. We'll do the best we can. So we're on 257. We said that a new king arose over Egypt who did not know Yosef. This means that the Yetzer Hara enters the fetus. He is the new king, new evil king, who is encroaching on the Yetzer Tov, the inclination for good, who was there first, and did not know Yosef refers to the Almighty. Okay, Alan, we're 3 lines from the bottom on 257. Yes. Oh, hold on. We have to get notes.
Oh, your notes.
You have to get notes. Yeah, this is pretty straight. A lot of this here is straightforward. It's different than, I think it's different than what we're used to. Okay, so we've been taking the words from the pasuk and relating each phrase or each word to the experience of a baby that is born. So the king said to his people, "Behold, people of Israel are more numerous and powerful than us, or than we are." So he said to his people, this is the Yetzer Hara relating to the powers of impurity, the kochas hatuma, the powers of impurity. And I may as well go on. Behold, the people of Israel, meaning the faculties of the soul, are more numerous and powerful than we are. Because of this, the Egyptians enslaved the Jewish people and forced the Israelites to work. And I didn't finish that sentence for a reason. Go ahead, Alan. He said,
and he said to his people, that is, to the powers of impurity, behold, the people of the children of Israel, that is, the faculties of the soul, are more numerous and powerful than we are. So what did he do? Try to turn the page. He
258.
enslaved them. He enslaved them.
Okay, 16. So he forced the Israelites to where it says they built fortified cities for Paro to build fortifications for the Yetzer Hara. To build fortifications for the Yetzer Hara. And here they translate as cities of refuge. I'm sorry, cities of storage.
Storage.
Yes, but it's not clear what it refers to. If they're storing weapons or other valuables or food, then it would be fortified. Okay, go ahead,
Isn't it
Alan.
Pitom and Ramses?
What?
What, Rudy?
Isn't
Yes.
it Pitom and Ramses?
Yes, it's
Store-
Pitom and Ramses, and we're going to get to that in a moment.
And they built store cities for Pharaoh. That is for the evil inclination.
17. Paro is the same letters as the neck, ha'oraf, meaning a person is stubborn. Got a stiff neck. The fortified cities refer to the body, which is drawn to materialistic things, and resistant or stubborn when it comes to matters of holiness. And this body is a fortification for the Yetzer Hara. Go ahead.
Can you look at store cities as containers, like vessels, like clipboat, some type of clipboat, some type of vessel? Same way the body.
You could. It depends how you translate the Torah. Arei miskinos lefaro. The Hebrew today is used as a poor, unfortunate situation or person. What it means in the Torah is not clear. One of the meanings is related to the word for danger. So it was unsafe working conditions that the Jewish people were building.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Medrash, it says that the ground wasn't stable, so the people would work for months and months, and then the ground, and then the building would collapse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Could be people got trapped inside, like I saw the tornado this week. But also all their work went for nothing. Even though they were slaves, you have some pride in what you build. Their work went for nothing. So either the ground was shaking, or the structure wasn't good in the first place. And that's one meaning that goes on there. The other is either, like I say, either cities of storage or cities that are fortified. So and as I mentioned, if a city is a storage, then you build it with fortifications, because there's something valuable there that you need to protect. So It could be that they're two sides of the same coin. I have to say, when I was a kid, we learned it in class. My teacher told us more than once, several times. He taught it. We're still in touch with him. He taught it, as my brother and I are still in touch with him. He taught it fortified cities, and not in my class, an earlier class. He gave them a test, and he put the word on the test, and a kid wrote the number 45.
Oh.
Because the teacher translated fortified cities. The kid thought he was saying 45. Fortified was a word that the student was not familiar with, probably 10 years old. So the teacher always told us over the story. The teacher had like a few dozen stories, many stories that he would tell regularly. And he would tell this story. He would say that he couldn't mark the student wrong, but he said from there he learned that you have to, when you use a word, you have to make sure the children know the definition of the word before you use it. Okay.
Right.
Okay, go ahead, Alan. The word
Paro is composed of the same letters as the word for the neck. Paro is Pei Resh Ayin Hey. Ha'oref is Hey Ayin Resh Pei. Just different order. The store cities are the body, which the evil inclination seeks to orient toward materialism, so that it serves as a means for the evil inclination to strengthen itself.
Okay, thanks. So what are the two cities? Pitom and Ramses. And as I mentioned, the Gemara says that both the structures weren't good. Either they weren't built so well, or the ground they were built on was not stable, and they collapsed. They were swallowed into the ground. The word Pitom, which is the name of the first city, is explained in the Talmud as Pi Tehom, the mouth of the abyss, which means that the ground collapsed and the building fell in and they had to start over. In our case, it means a person indulges his physical pleasure by eating and drinking, and he brings more power to the Yetzer Hara. That again, we have a Yetzer Hara. In order to strengthen itself, it uses the body, the physical body, that has physical pleasures and indulgences. So the Yetzer Hara is the body, so to speak. Either it's a place of storage for the Yetzer Hara, or it fortifies the Yetzer Hara. And the name Pitahom, which the Talmud says is the mouth of the abyss, refers to a person's mouth eating and drinking. So your physical pleasures, they support, they fortify the Yetzer Hara. You know that the more you indulge yourself, the more addictive it is, and the harder it is to stop. So in this way, the body is a fortification for the Yetzer Hara. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
Pitom refers to the mouth, for it is there that all the sensual lusts of eating and drinking, which strengthen the evil inclination, are expressed. Thus, the word pithom can be seen as formed of the words for the mouth of the abyss. Pi Tahom, for the evil inclination says, give more to eat and drink, and the abyss swallows without end.
Okay, so this is known as a reference to the Yetzer Hara, to a teaching where it says just give, and it is all take and no give. Then the second city, and again in the Medrash it says that one was the actual name and the other was a name that just describes it. But the second city is called Ramses, can be understood as two words, Ra Meses. Meses is the stomach. I think usually it's related to connect to an animal. I don't know which part of the stomach. But Ra Meses, an evil stomach. Again, implying indulgence in physical pleasure. Okay, go ahead.
And Ramses can be seen as formed of the words for an evil stomach, Ra Meses. The stomach digests the food, and it thus acts as an evil stomach. The stomach fills the mind with sensations of cessation and complacency, making the person insensitive to spirituality.
Okay. Next. So the Torah continues and says that the more the Egyptians caused the Israelites to suffer, Israel increased and exploded in number. This means concurrently with the Yetzer Hara, the soul grows, and it can be trained and developed to protect a person against the Yetzer Hara through proper education in Torah and mitzvahs. Okay, Jim, you ready? 258 at the bottom.
The more the powers of impurity and the evil inclination afflicted them, that is the powers of the soul, the more they multiplied and the more they spread forth. But the more the body develops, the more the soul manifests itself within it, as we have stated. Despite the inclination's hold over the body, the divine soul and the good inclination gradually manifest themselves as a person grows up. Ideally, the child receives a proper Jewish education, so by the time he or she has reached the age of bar or bat mitzvah, he or she has learned how to control the evil inclination. The divine soul is then fully manifest in the body, and the child is therefore obligated to perform all the commandments. If this is not the case, however, and the child is not educated properly, the manifestation of his or her divine soul will be stunted, and its full manifestation will have to wait until later on in life. But nevertheless, the very fact that the body develops is enough to obligate the person to full performance of the commandments at age bar and bat mitzvah. For physical development brings with it minimum measure of spiritual development, no matter what. In other words, normal psychological development maturity that accompanies physical development is enough to give the growing child the ability to think for himself or herself and contemplates his or her role in society. And if the child were to use this ability properly, he or she, theoretically at least, he or she could arrive at the conclusion that God exists. He has a law for humanity to follow and so forth. Every 13 or 12-year-old is thus obligated to fulfill the commandments no matter what.
Okay, so at this point, we want to thank everybody who participates in supporting the Torah education of Jewish children here at LYA of Long Meadow.
No problem.
And I will say, it's reading this, it's a tough world out there. You see what kids go through, and as they're growing up, and then high school, after high school, and the challenges that they meet, the enticements, the sparkles that entice them. It's very difficult for a variety of reasons.
Thank you
Now-
thank you for offering to help us and other adults continue to learn as we continue to deal with the same process.
So true. Yeah.
Thank you.
And not
And
being
we're
afraid
all-
to teach.
Hmm?
Sorry. I
Go ahead.
was going to say, and not being afraid to teach something that's difficult. Because a lot of rabbis wouldn't dare.
I have a chicken exit. It's called I don't know, or I don't get it myself. I'm not afraid to say that. So no, I'm kidding. Thank God. It's we've learned a lot in the class. I've learned a lot in the class. Yeah, but right now, each of us has turned into ambassadors, our own ambassadors for Torah.
I can reference page numbers.
What?
I've learned enough to reference some page numbers.
Nothing wrong with that.
This-
Okay.
This is the kind of thing that you don't know what you know until you need to use it, then you realize how much you've learned.
True. And then Hasidus, of course, you know this really simple thing, and you don't realize that simple thing is the whole thing. But so you're carrying it around the whole time, and you don't know what you've got.
What I found, what I found is that, and we're coming on, I think April or May will be 8 years of the class, which is not a short time. It's a long time, but I find that things that used to, confuse me are now much clearer. I have a much better handle on them.
Mhm.
So, okay. So now we're going to change lanes a little bit. And we're going to look at the Exodus. Not everything in the Exodus, but beginning with the plagues and how this is compared to birth, The Torah is an allusion to birth. The Torah then says the more the Egyptians caused the Israelites to suffer, Israel increased and exploded in number. This means concurrently, the soul grows. I guess while the Yetzer Hara is growing, but the soul grows and can be trained and developed. We just read that. 21. We will now advance to the Exodus and show how it relates to the birth of a child as well. The first plague was blood. Blood represents the power of impurity. Blood is released before the child is born, so the child will not choke in it. So too, the plague of blood, released the powers of impurity from the Jewish people. I guess it kind of purged them of impurities before they left, or as a preparation for them to leave. Okay, Jim, the Exodus.
The Exodus from Egypt is analogous to birth. The 10 plagues also have their analogs in this context. The first plague was that of blood, for the womb cannot open without bleeding first. For if the blood would not come out first, the child would choke and drown in the blood, which correlates to the powers of impurity. Blood issuing from the womb is associated with the powers of impurity, since their issuance always causes the woman to focus on herself. Self-awareness is the antithesis of divine consciousness.
You're right.
As I know. I'm just trying. Give me a second here. Hold on. Are you all right? Okay. Antithesis of divine consciousness, as we have explained previously.
I didn't see this before. Always cause women to focus on herself. Could be that blood issuing means it's a time for herself when she's not going to relate with her husband, to her husband, a time for self-reflection, self-awareness. But it says also this is an antithesis, whatever, of divine consciousness.
Does it mean menstruation or does it mean just before you give birth?
I'm not sure.
It sounds like menstruation.
It sounds like it's both, or the idea in general. That's what it seems to say. And we always speak about it as a positive time, but if the interaction between husband and wife is a reflection of the divine holiness descending into the world, then the period of separation would be a time of when divine energy does not, or it represents the idea that divine energy is not coming into the world.
It sounds like this sounds like it's birth, though, because the whole thing is referring to the Exodus as it relates to birth itself.
So here it's birth, but it could be it's talking about in general.
Right.
It works both ways.
I think it's both. I think you're right.
We always say that the time when the husband and wife separate is time for the husband to appreciate a different side of the wife, a more spiritual side, a more human side, and not something that's just based on a physical relationship, but based on an intellectual or emotional relationship.
Plutonic.
Platonic?
Yeah.
Okay.
From the woman's standpoint, maybe it's that crouching down before jumping kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly is that. It certainly is that too. Okay.
Very interesting.
22. The second plague was frogs, Sfardeia in Hebrew. This can be read as two words, Sipor, Dea, a bird of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and we're going to connect this with childbirth as well. Chapter 20 in Tillim it seems to say that chapter 20 of Tehillim corresponds to a woman who gives birth. That's Lamnatseach Mizmor LaDavid. Yancha Hashem biyom tzara yisagev Hashem Elokei Yaakov. So I didn't count it inside. Lamnatseach Mizmor LaDavid is like a title. This is for the choir master, a song for David. So we don't count those words. Then we say Yancha Hashem biyom tzara until the end. Hashem Hoshia Hamelch Yanenu V'Yom Karenu. So at 70 words, and there are two reasons why chapter 20 of Tehillim would seem to correspond or to describe a woman who gives birth. For one thing, it has 70 words, and it says there are 70 sounds of a woman who gives birth. Giving birth. Just as a bird, we said a bird of knowledge, just as a bird chirps and makes sounds. I don't know what this, I've never seen this before, except when we learned it last time, which I don't remember. The 70 sounds of the woman giving birth. The second commonality between the two is the psalm begins, "May Hashem answer you on a day of pain," which certainly can include a woman who gives birth.
Yes.
Okay, so that is the plague of frogs. Again, the point here is that the Exodus is like a child being born. Okay, go ahead.
Next was the plague of frogs. The word for frog, Tzifardea, can be seen as constructed of the words for a bird of knowledge. Sipor, Dea. Sipor, Das, Deas. These are the 70 voices of a woman giving birth, which correspond to the 70 words in Psalm 20, which begins, "May God answer you on the day of pain." These voices are thus alluded to by a bird, referring to the sounds women make like bird calls and chirps when giving birth.
Done? Okay, hold on.
The 70s are really, keeps coming around. We got 70 nations, we got 70 names. So it's a 70's got a
went
magic.
down to Egypt.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
70s coming around a lot.
I have a few. Yeah, well, 70 certainly. Mizmor Lasoda, Song of Thanksgiving, which we say after Baruch Shamar in the morning. So the initials of Mizmor Lisoda is Mem Lamed, which is 70. And it says that stands for the 70 sounds of a woman in childbirth. That's Lakutei Moharan. Elsewhere, it says something else that's a little involved and complicated. It connects 140, it's 70 times 2. But then it says, when you say in the morning, we say this Tillim before Uval Tzion. And this is from the Arizal. A person should have in mind when he says the Lamnatseach Mizmor David, the 70 sounds of a woman giving birth. It could be it's a different one, but it says it related to this one, that this is the mystery of creation. And it's the creation is like childbirth, and therefore it shouts with this idea of the 70 or in accordance to this idea of 70 sounds of the woman in childbirth, which is mentioned in Zohar. This is the 70 words of this chapter of Tillim. Afterwards, and then it says what is born is the nukva, is the female. And then after Nuvola Sion, we follow Lamnatseach, and we say, Viata Kadosh, Yosef Tilos, Kadosh, 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 and Barak Kavod. And that's connected. That is, I guess, also what is born, what is produced from these from the Lamnatseach. And it comes out as three things here. Okay, but it's much more on that. It's a mystery. Okay, next we skip to the 20s, to the plague of darkness. The ninth plague is darkness, and darkness is similar to the darkness of the womb. And we talk about childbirth, so it's the pain, also represents the pain and darkness of childbirth. Go ahead, Jim.
So the analog of the plague of darkness is as follows. It is known that during the first trimester, the fetus is in the lower chamber of the womb. During the middle trimester, it is in the middle chamber. During the last trimester, it is in the upper chamber. At birth, it rolls down and dwells in darkness and great pain.
And go ahead.
Darkness was the ninth plague.
And it's possible that the lowest chamber is the one that's furthest from the opening, and the upper chamber is the one that's closest to the opening. I don't know.
Mhm.
It could be the other way around. I don't know. Okay, 24. And I certainly don't remember. The last plague was the death of the firstborn. The Yetzer Hara's power is, and this means that the power of the Yetzer Hara is curtailed. So it would not overwhelm the fetus and possibly even prevent the fetus from being born. So death of the firstborn. The firstborn means your might, your strength, your first line of defense. And when the firstborn of Egyptians died, it means the front line of Klippa died. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
The plague of the firstborn corresponds to the subjugation of the evil inclinations and ciliary powers of impurity that ruled within the womb. If this would not occur, they would kill the fetus. Even though they made the fetus grow, thus is their way. They descend to entice, and they ascend to accuse. Having encouraged the fetus to develop with materialistic consciousness, forces of evil ascend to the heavenly court to accuse it of evil.
So here it is. They join the body, and they get the body involved in all kinds of stuff that it shouldn't be doing, and then they go running. They go running to the heavens and say, "Hey, look what he's doing! Look what he's doing!" Well, they were the ones who schlepped it there in the first place. Okay, that's like it's like when the FBI sets up an entrapment. Okay, 25.
The big S. The big
What?
Satan. The big Satan, I said.
Yes. Now, we've missed something. Okay, now we're gonna get into all kinds of different things. We're gonna all relate it to the same central theme, but who is the epitome of the Satan? I'm going to say of the anti-Mashiach, is Esav.
Esau, yeah.
The Torah actually describes Esav's birth and parts of his development and his childhood. So now we're going to bring this in as well, and then some other things that are really out there. The Torah says,
didn't he have the snake on him? Actually, like a tattoo of a snake. Didn't we talk about that at some point?
I brought it in. I don't think it was in the Arizal, but he had a snake, either as a tattoo or as a birthmark,
Right.
on his thigh.
Mm.
Thigh meaning near his part of his body that corresponds to Yesod.
Mm-hmm.
By Esav, it says the first one came out ruddy. The first of the twins, Yaakov and Esav. Ruddy, meaning with a red complexion. Ruddiness refers to klipa and to thirst of blood. And Esav is the personification of the power of evil. So here we explain the idea of red complexion. Go ahead, Avigail. Afterwards, middle of 260.
Afterwards, at birth, the first one came out ruddy, referring to the evil inclination. This verse
Okay,
refers.
let me go next. I think 26. Although all the firstborn died during the last plague, the greatest of the firstborn survived, Paro himself. So too, although the powers of impurity are curtailed, the Yetzer Hara remains. As Hashem said to Cain, sin crouches at the opening, meaning we must always be on guard for the Yetzer Hara. Go ahead.
The verse refers to the birth of Esau, who embodied and serves as the metaphor for the evil inclination. For although all the other powers of impurity are killed off at birth, the evil inclination remains, just as in the plague of the firstborn, all the firstborn were killed off except for Pharaoh, the greatest of them, who personified the evil inclination itself. Similarly, the evil inclination remains with the child, for this is God's intention, that a person should possess an evil inclination. As it is written, sin crouches at the opening. This verse refers to the fact that although the evil inclination is with a person from birth, you can overcome it.
27. By Esav, it said, the first one came out ruddy, because the Yetzer Hara enters the body fully. The Yetzer Hara enters the body fully when a person is born, but the Yetzer Tov does not complete its entry until a person reaches or turns 13 or 12.
Or 12.
Case of girls. Okay, go ahead, Abigail.
This is why the verse describing the birth of Jacob and Esau reads, and the first one came out ruddy. For the first one is the evil inclination, who enters the person's consciousness as soon as he emerges from his mother's womb. For the good inclination does not enter a person's consciousness until he is 13 years and 1 day old. The evil inclination.
Yeah, go ahead. One more.
The evil inclination is described as being ruddy, for it is a shedder of blood. The evil inclination descends to entice, ascends to accuse, and then descends again as the angel of death to execute the judgment.
Okay.
Sweet. Not.
We said that the Yetzer Hara is described as ruddy because it sheds blood. Okay. Now we're going to go a little different again. There's a tradition, I should write an obscure tradition.
Here you go.
There's an obscure tradition, the 7 celestial bodies that influence the world in this order: Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. And this is found in the Talmud, Gemara Shabbos 129b, and there's also a Rashi in Eruvin 56a. Okay. Any questions so far? This is obscure. It's not mentioned. It's just might be the only place that it's mentioned. And again, Rashi gives the explanation. Mars, the red bloody planet, is associated with Nisan, the month of the Exodus.
Huh.
And for this month
Sure.
thing, I haven't seen a reason for this. There is over there in the Gemara, it speaks about each one being dominant for another hour, starting from the end of Shabbos. Like at the beginning of creation. I'm sorry, not for the end of Shabbos. Starting from when the sun, moon, and stars were created, the beginning of Wednesday, which is Tuesday night. Now, at sunset or dusk, beginning of the fourth day is when the heavenly bodies were created. And from then, each of these is dominant for an hour. And being that there are 7, by the end of the week, it's right back where it starts. Now, what's new to me is that they're also associated with the months. We will refer to all 7 as planets, even though in today's science, the sun and moon are not planets. Planets are defined by science as large bodies of rock or gas that orbit the sun. In the terminology of the rabbis, any celestial body is called a kochav lechet. I shouldn't say any celestial body. Any of these is called a planet. The planet is from the Latin word wanderers, because they, in ancient times, they would watch the sky. The stars are fixed, and the planets move. So over time, over a few weeks, a month, the moon on a daily basis, you can see how they're moving. And anyone need a little explanation on that? Would like?
No.
I don't know if it's obvious to everyone, but in today's understanding, we have the sun, the moon orbits the earth and goes around, makes it one revolution, one orbit in the 29 and a half days in a month. And the 9 planets go around the sun. It's Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto.
Pluto's remember is a dwarf now. It's been demoted.
Pluto's
Pluto.
been X'd.
Pluto must have
Pluto was
complained.
voted off the island.
It was off the yeah.
Pluto complained.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, there you go. And then there's other stuff also. There's the Kuiper belt and other things that are orbiting the sun. These are relatively close. I think Pluto is 1 billion miles or more from the sun. By the way, Pluto was discovered by a guy named Percy, who was a young guy, but he did calculations of gravity.
I thought it was
And-
Tombaugh.
What?
Clyde Tombaugh.
No, I think it was Percival. And he did computations of gravity and figured out that there must be something out there pulling on Neptune. You can Google it, Alan, while we're reading. That there must be something out there pulling on Neptune, and he knew where to look, and that's how he found Pluto. I think it was 1932. So, and I think it's 1 billion miles. From there, the sun just looks like a dot. Today, you look up at you use a telescope to look at the planets, and they can be enlarged. I did go to someone's house many years ago here in Longmeadow, in a dark backyard, and with this telescope, I was able to see the rings of Saturn.
Wow.
It was really cool. So the telescope helps. When we look at stars, they're many times larger. hundreds of times larger than the planets, and they'll always remain a dot because they're so far away.
Pluto was discovered by Clyde Tombaugh.
Clyde Tombaugh.
Yep.
Okay.
And I
So
knew
who's
that.
Percival?
For P.
I don't know, but Clyde Tombaugh is the one who discovered Pluto in 1930. I
Isn't
knew
it
that
Tom
because-
Brokaw?
No, because I learned about him when he discovered it. He was a professor at two places that he did work at. One was Worcester Tech. The other one was at New Mexico State University at the observatory where he discovered the planet.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. You didn't meet him in New Mexico, did you?
No, I didn't.
It was
Okay, thanks.
near Area 54 where Alan worked.
Lived.
So, the stars remain fixed in the sky. They're so far. That's how, because they're so far away. I think I read, if you take the sun and you shrink it to the size of a ping pong ball, I read once. If you shrink the sun to a scale the size of a ping pong ball, the closest star would be outside, and you put it on the 50-yard line, the closest star would be outside the stadium.
Hmm.
So the stars are really, really far. I mean, we have stars that are a few light years away. I think I read Barnard's star is 12 light years away. But it could be small and nearly invisible to us. So in any case, but in over there, these 7 all move, and so they're all considered, they're called kochvei lechet, traveling stars or planets in Latin, wanderers in Latin, and they're all grouped into one. And of course, today science sees the sun in the middle, everything orbiting the sun. And then they had a different plan and understanding where the sun orbited Earth just as everything else. Okay, so where are we? How did I get lost here?
You're in the stars.
Look at the Jewish people.
We're just starting thus the birth.
No, I had a different screen up. I don't know why I got there. Planets are, okay, the term of the rabbis, any celestial body that changes position is called a planet. Give me a second. Okay. Go ahead, Abigail. Thus
the birth of the Jewish people, the exodus from Egypt, occurred in the month of Nisan when the 7 planets, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. Mars is ascendant. Is that a sentence? It occurred in the month of
when
Nisan.
of the 7 planets, Mars
Thank
is
you.
ascendant.
Okay.
Yeah.
When of, skipped that. It is known that the 12 signs
Hold
of the
on.
zodiac.
Hold on. Now we're going
Mars
to get
is
an next
red.
little lesson.
Forgot
I've done these before. 30. The zodiac. So there are many constellations. Constellations in any group of stars that you see a picture there. For us, it's very hard in the city unless you're living in rural Vermont. You might have a better view. But we only see the brightest of the stars. But of the constellations, the zodiac is a series of 12 constellations that form the path of the sun during the course of the year. If you think of it as the sun traveling the same orbit in the sky during the course of a year, and we want to have a name for that path. We want to have not only a name, but we have be able to describe the location of the sun, where it is along that circle.
Mm.
Hey, you could join my Kabbalah class. I'm doing that Arizal. I'll have to call you back. Okay. Bye.
Oh,
The And anyone know what that's called? The path of the sun? It's called the ecliptic. And so nowadays, we have a different way to describe where the sun is along that path. And that way is December 14th, March 8th. Any day on the secular calendar, since there are 365 days in the calendar, and it corresponds to the path of the sun, to the orbit of the sun, so that on January 1st, the sun's in the same place again. So now, when we say any date on the regular calendar, we are describing where the sun is. If I say June 22nd, you know I'm talking about the first day of summer. If I say September 21st or 22nd, you know I'm talking about the first day of fall. And you know that
Interesting.
that sunrise and sunset are going to be about 6 a.m., 6 p.m. Then you have to adjust it for daylight saving time.
You're talking about the solstice.
Or any day.
When you say that, it makes me really not want to use the Roman calendar at all.
Why?
Because Jews are supposed to be about the moon, not the sun.
But we need
And-
the sun too.
Yeah.
In fact, the Jewish calendar is a convergence of the lunar orbit and the solar orbit.
Both. It's a mixture. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mixture, it's a combination. And so I read once in the Gemara, it says, I think that don't plant or ideal for planting is when the sun is at this position in the ecliptic, in this constellation, at this place in the constellation, meaning in English, you would just say, we would just say May 16th, but they didn't say that. So they said where the position of the sun is.
Mm.
So that, and then we know every year for the last 2 weeks, I think since Thursday, 2 weeks ago, sunset in Springfield has been 4:19, and it's going to go to 4:20 either tomorrow, I think tomorrow, maybe Thursday. So every year on December 14th, the sunset is at 4:19, and December 15th is going to be 4:20, give or take a day. That's why the first day of the first day of the seasons could be one of 2 days. So it's accurate within a day.
The first day of summer is normally June 21st.
Okay, is it always June 21st or sometimes June 22nd? I don't know, but I know a lot of times it seems like it's like it's 1 or 2 days.
I could
So-
see that it would be inaccurate because we build up over 4 years to a leap year. Right? So there must be a point where it's off.
It's adjusting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It goes a little more off every.
It's
uh,
not
one
three.
every
It's
3
not
years.
exactly 365 days. 365 days in a quarter.
No, yeah. That's what we
Whatever,
had.
five hours, 48 or 49 minutes. So, so in those days, they used the zodiac or the constellation of the sun, the 12 constellations of the sun, to describe what we use with the secular calendar. So the sun's orbit is 360 degrees. Each of the 12 constellations is given 30 degrees in this orbit. So it's very mathematical. And each constellation corresponds to a Hebrew month. And the months of each season are associated with the 4 elements: air, fire, water, and earth. Sounds like a good name for a band. Okay, go ahead, Abigail. It is known.
It is known that the 12 signs of the zodiac subdivide into 4 categories corresponding to the 4 elements. These 3 are 3 signs associated with each element. According to Rabbi Moshe Cordero, Cordovero, known by his initials, the Ramak, as the Ramak. These correspondences are as follows. Nissan, Aries, fire. Iyar, Taurus, earth. Sivan, Gemini, air. Tammuz, Cancer, water. Av, Leo, fire. Elul, Virgo, earth. Tishrei, Libra, air. Marheshvan, Scorpio, water. Kislev, Sagittarius, fire. Tevet, Capricorn, earth. Shavat, Aquarius, air. Adar, Pisces, water.
Okay, so first of all, we're rejecting any power horoscopes. That's absolutely against the Torah. To look to the horoscope and these signs. I don't think it's okay to say, hey, I met someone and they go, oh yeah, my husband's a Leo, or we're all Leo, as if that's supposed to mean something. However, we have Nissan, Aries is a ram. We slaughter a baby ram. We slaughter a lamb for the Karban Pesach. And this is to show that there is, we show that that there's no power to these signs. Iyar, Taurus, bull, I don't remember, could be Pesach Sheni. Sivan, Gemini are twins. As we have two, Sivan is when the Torah was given, the two tablets, the two matching tablets. Of Leo is a lion. It says that the lion, referring to Nebuchadnezzar, came and destroyed the lion, referring to the Beis Hamikdash. I think it says the month of the lion. There might be another one or two references there to lion in that saying. Tishrei, Libra are scales. Tishrei is when the world is judged. Sagittarius is a hunter, bow and arrow. Kislev, that might be connected with the Maccabees. Adar, Pisces is a fish. The Medrash says that Haman, when his lots fell to wipe out the Jews, Rahman al-Islam, that Haman said fish is a good sign because a big fish swallows smaller fish. And a Baskol responded, an echo from heaven responded, yes, but sometimes a big fish can swallow a small fish, but he can also be swallowed by a bigger fish. Okay, so what do we got here? Next, 31. Aries during Nisan is associated with fire, and Scorpio during the month of Cheshvan is associated with water. A scorpion only kills someone who is very cold. Yeah, who knew? When I walk in scorpion country, I'll make sure I'm hot. 261 at the bottom, Avigail, go ahead.
The sign of Aries is associated with the element of fire, and Scorpio is associated with the element of water, for a scorpion kills only someone if he is extremely cold.
Oh, hold on. Give me a second to catch up.
Yep.
Okay, 32. 5, and we're going to do a little more explanations here. 5 of the 7 planets we mentioned above correspond to 2 constellations of the zodiac. I say each of the 5
Correspond to 2.
Well, you skip you.
I skipped.
Yeah. Go down to 32.
Each of the 5 of the 7 planets we mentioned above correspond to 2 constellations of the zodiac, and the sun and moon, which gives us 10. The sun and moon correspond to 1 each. Aries and Scorpio are associated with Mars. Aries is a ram, which is why they slaughtered a lamb or a young ram on the 14th of Nisan. in the middle of the month, Aries is dominant. It's the 14th. So Aries would be most dominant in the middle of the month. In other words, the sun is at the center or zenith of the constellation. We said that each constellation is given 30 degrees. So this would be in the center.
Hmm.
Yeah, do the next two paragraphs.
Okay. The sign of Aries is associated with the element of fire, and Scorpio is associated with the element of water. I already said this. So Scorpion only kills someone if he's extremely cold. Each of the 7 planets is associated with 2 signs, except for the sun and the moon, which are associated with only 1 each. In Talmudic astronomy, the 7 planets are the sun, Mercury, Venus, the moon, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. 5 times 2 plus 2 times 1 equals 12. The 2 signs of Aries and Scorpio rule over Mars. This is why they slaughtered the Passover sacrifice on the 14th of Nisan, when the sign of Aries was in its strength. Aries is a lamb, and the Passover sacrifice was a lamb. They slaughtered a lamb in order to weaken the power of the celestial lamb, Aries.
Okay, I've not been watching the clock. It's already 8:38, and this is a good place to start. We're gonna
This goes
make
into
another switch lanes again. And the next thing, gonna bring in other things. This is a little bit far out.
Yeah.
So let me stop the share. Oh, hold on. So I know where we are, Alan.
Okay.
this
yeah.
reminds me of that mimer where the Rebbe talked about why they worship the golden calf.
Okay. We'll stop here.
Awesome.
Okay. Wait, let me end the recording.